each other, in other words. So go face to face with the other.
All right, good visual. Dr. Kim Jesse is here today, and Kim is a member of the Bridge Network of Churches, which is about 100 and some churches in the area. Been around for a long time, I guess, the Bridge Network. Well, come on up, Kim. Um, this is Kim Jesse. Give her a little hand. There you go. Um, Kim's on staff with the Bridge Network, so I've asked her to come and speak. Just tell them a little bit about Bridge, and then she's got an opportunity for training here I want you to hear about.
Thank you. I enjoyed being in the prayer circle. Thank you for praying over my uncle. I really appreciate that a lot. The Bridge Network of Churches became the Bridge Network of Churches about 5 or 6 years ago. Prior to that, we were the Norfolk Area Baptist Association, mostly Southern Baptist churches. And then about 7 years ago, we decided, we can be in fellowship with churches who are like us, but not Southern Baptist. And so we went through a process of expanding our tent pegs so that we could be more inclusive and in partnership with churches who are trying to accomplish the very same things and have the same values that we do. And so for the last 5 or 6 years, we have been the Bridge Network of Churches, and we have churches from the Maryland state line to the North Carolina state line, coastal Virginia, and then we have churches as far west as Richmond. And so we have a fairly large territory, and primarily our churches are in Chesapeake, Norfolk, and Virginia Beach, but we do have churches on the shore and as far west as Richmond. And I have worked with the network for 25 years, and my responsibility is ministry leadership development. And so I work with leaders in churches, whether they're paid or volunteered, who manage ministries or who are involved in volunteer positions that move the vision of the church forward. And so Pastor Bob and I have been talking about the possibility of doing what we call a leadership lab with the leaders of your church. And this will be for people that are identified as strong leaders in the church or as potential strong leaders in the church. Is that right, Pastor Bob? That's everybody. That's right. That's right. And we start out, it's 10 sessions, so it's 10 months long. So we have a 2-hour classroom time once a month. And then once a month, there's a one-on-one coaching session. And the coaching session is to help each individual implement the training and the goals and vision and processes at their own pace. Some people will breeze right through, and other people will be struggling with trying to identify who God is saying they are and what God is saying they're supposed to be about. And so sometimes when we're working through this process, there are walls to be dismantled, there are barriers to break through, and there are understandings to accept. And so that's a part of the process. So we start out with some assessments, and we identify some spiritual gifts, we identify some personality pieces, we identify some strengths, and then we look at how all of that fits together to create the unique individual that God wove you together in your mother's womb to become today, so that you can work toward His purpose in the life of the church under the vision and values of your pastor, so that you all consider it like a tandem bike. And everybody's on this long tandem bike pedaling. We want everybody to be pedaling in rhythm together in order to reach the destination that through the power of the Holy Spirit God has bestowed upon your pastor. And so if we can get everybody rowing together, not rowing together, but pedaling together, the church will get there faster and more effectively and more efficiently, with the resources that the Holy Spirit has presented and provided to the church, Abundant Life Church. Okay, so we look at some simple things like who God created you to be, what's the vision the pastor has received, and how does that then translate to every single person in the church who is a part of the process. And so as a part of the process, we'll hear the pastor's vision. I'm sure many of you are already aware of that. And then he will speak words of encouragement over each person who's participating and helping that person see how he sees through the Holy Spirit that person's role in accomplishing the vision God has given for Abundant Life Church. Then as a result of that, we will look at goals and action steps to accomplish those goals. We'll look at how to talk effectively. Sometimes just simple words can trip us up. And I worked with a group several years ago. The word team has different meanings to the different genders. I'm not going to tell you what those are. You have to come to the training to find that out. But I was working with a church of 30 leaders several years back, and I started talking about this, and they were like, oh gosh, no, a team is a team is a team. And then I said what the man's vision is of team, typically, how they define the word team, and the men are all going, yeah. And I had a whole group over on this side of the room of ladies, and they all stood up, hands on head. That is not the definition of team. And I'm like, proves my point. So if we can, as leaders, sometimes we're not communicating effectively. Sometimes we have to back up and go, okay, where am I missing? What is it that I'm saying that they're not understanding? And then you have to go back maybe to each word and define what you mean by that word. So we'll talk about communication. We'll talk about listening, because it's a two-way street. We'll talk about how to build and be a healthy team. We'll talk about how to deal with those difficult people in your life, because Lord knows they exist. We'll talk about how to resolve conflict and understanding how we typically handle conflict. We'll talk about how to lead and manage change, because it can be a process, and sometimes it can be difficult when someone will dig in their heels and not want to move forward. Then as we move forward, we'll talk about how we can coach other people to become who God created them to be, and how we can mentor people into leadership roles. And after all of that is finished, we will talk about how to live a healthy, balanced life that honors God and not to lead to burnout. And so that's the 10-part process. And I am excited about the possibility of working with Pastor Bob and the leaders of Abundant Life Church. Thank you for this time.
If you would. Well, what do you think? This stuff that Kim is talking about works everywhere. It works in your home. It works in your business. It works in your bowling league. I mean, communication, knowing how to deal with difficult people, just knowing how to express your particular personality, giftings in any situation, this would tune you up. You're probably aware of the fact that as you've gotten older, you've gotten to know yourself better as well as other people. And you realize some things about yourself you wish you'd known like 20 years ago. This would accelerate the process of you knowing who you are and how God wired you to make him famous and to make other people happy, and make you happy along the way. So I really encourage you to think about becoming part of this group. It's 2 hours a month. Now, we'll talk about are there any variations to that schedule and all that. We can customize it maybe, but it's obviously good if you take the whole thing, but maybe some of you can just take part of it. Frankly, if you can only do one thing, I'd like you to do it, because one thing is better than no thing. And you have to be over the age of 18 to do this? Or
We've worked with high school students.
high school students, are you listening, Jonathan? Oh! You're not in high school yet, are you? No, you wish you were though, right? He thinks he's in high school. Okay. No, seriously, I would have loved to have taken this course when I was a young man. They didn't have courses like this when I was a young man. They didn't have a lot of things now that they back then that they have now, and your life will be richer, fuller. You'll be a better version of you. So Kim's staying for lunch, and please ask her questions. Talk about this stuff. We don't know when we'll start it. We'll figure out all of the details later. Probably training would be in the evening or on a Sunday afternoon because of her current schedule. So, but talk to her and let's see what we can do. We've never done a leadership training module in this church, and I would love to see some of you do that. If you don't do it this year, maybe we can do it again next year. But this is the first opportunity. It's all free. There's no cost to you, all right? There may be some books that have to be bought. Maybe the church will help you. Yes, sir.